A grocery store feels simple because it is designed to feel simple. The lights are bright, the aisles are wide, the milk is cold, the bananas are yellow, and 10 minutes after walking in, you can leave with dinner, paper towels, toothpaste, and strawberries in January. It looks like convenience made physical. What it really is, underneath that calm surface, is one of the most tightly timed logistics systems most people will ever touch. The scale is easy to miss, because the whole thing is packaged as routine. In the United States, FMI says supermarkets did about $1 trillion in sales in 2025. The country had 45,575 supermarkets in 2024, and the average supermarket now carries 33,248 individual items, one building, one set of shelves, and more than 33,000 little promises to the customer that the thing they came for will probably be there. That promise is so normal that most people do not even see it as a promise anymore. What makes the promise more impressive is how often people repeat the ritual. FMI says the average U.S. household was spending about $169 a week on groceries as of February 2026. The average in-store supermarket transaction in 2025 was just over $49. Online, it was about $106. That means the industry is not moving a few giant purchases. It is moving an endless stream of medium-sized, time-sensitive, habit-driven trips. Millions of households every week expect refrigerated food, fresh produce, meat, bread, cleaning supplies, and snacks to all be available at once, in one stop, at a price that still feels normal. Inside the business, one of the quiet words that matters most is fill rate. More specifically, case fill rate. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. If a store orders 1,000 cases of product from a warehouse, and the warehouse ships 950, the case fill rate is 95%. The missing 50 cases are not an accounting detail. They are future holes on shelves. They are substitutions in pickup orders. They are customers saying, maybe I'll try the other store next time. To shoppers, the important question is, do they have my yogurt? To the system, the question is, can we fill the case, on time, from stock already on hand? That single measure tells you what a grocery store really is. It is not just a building that sells food. It is a machine that converts forecasts into filled shelves. Step 1 happens long before the truck arrives. Someone has to decide what 33,248 items deserve space in a store, in what quantity, and in what sequence. That sounds like merchandising, but it is really risk management. If you underorder, you lose the sale. If you overorder, you trap cash in the back room, or throw the product away. And grocery is not like furniture or luxury retail, where you can make one big mistake and slowly recover over months. Grocery resets every day. That is because the product mix is brutally uneven. Some items are forgiving. A case of canned beans can wait. A box of cereal can wait. Paper towels can definitely wait. But strawberries cannot wait. Bagged salad cannot wait. Raw chicken cannot wait. The store is trying to run one business with two different clocks inside it. One clock measures weeks or months. The other measures days, and sometimes hours. The average supermarket may take in thousands of cases a week, but those cases do not all age the same way. Every category forces a different decision on inventory, storage, transport, handling, and markdowns. Then comes the warehouse layer, where grocery stops looking like retail and starts looking like industrial choreography. Stores do not usually order individual units from suppliers. They are replenished through distribution networks that receive full pallets, break them into store-level quantities, and send mixed loads back out. That is where the fill rate becomes real. A warehouse may be serving dozens or hundreds of stores. If it misses on a fast-moving item, the error multiplies instantly across that network. A 5% miss at warehouse level can become empty shelf after empty shelf after empty shelf by tomorrow morning. Grocery is full of small percentages that become visible only when they hit the shelf edge. Temperature is another hidden layer, and it is unforgiving. The FDA's food safety danger zone runs from 41 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. In that range, bacteria can double every 20 minutes under ideal conditions. That is why refrigerated vehicles are supposed to be pre-cooled to 41 degrees or below before loading. It is why a truck door opening 6 times on a multi-stop route matters. It is why a pallet sitting on a receiving dock for 3 hours is not a minor delay. For perishable food, it is borrowed shelf life being burned in public. The cold chain is not about keeping food cold in a general sense. It is about preserving time. That same logic holds at the store. The average supermarket in 2025 was doing $19.59 in weekly sales per square foot of selling area, according to FMI. That number sounds abstract until you realize what it means. Every foot of shelf space is under pressure to justify itself. Every cooler door has to earn its keep. Every slow item is a choice not to carry something faster. Yet stores cannot become too efficient, because variety is part of the offer. A shopper may come in for bread and milk, but what keeps them loyal is often one oddly specific salsa, one exact yogurt flavor, one regional hot sauce, one store-brand cereal their kids will actually eat. Grocery stores make money on volume, but they defend themselves with assortment. That is why the process has to keep looping. Sales data leaves the checkout lane. Inventory systems compare it to what the store thinks it has. Replenishment orders are generated. Warehouse stock is allocated. Cases are picked. Trucks are routed. Overnight crews restock. Then the cycle starts again the next morning. In-store baskets average around $49, but the physical system behind that basket may have touched a supplier, a wholesaler, a refrigerated trailer, a distribution center, a forecasting system, a labor schedule, and a shelf set before the customer even walked in. A supermarket feels like a static place. It is really a live feed of moving decisions. Now flip the whole thing over and look at the ugly side. Grocery sells necessity, but it operates on very little slack. Grocery Dive reported that the industry's profit margin fell to 1.6% in 2023, the lowest since 2019. That means on $100 of sales, the business keeps about $1.60 after costs. Not gross margin, net. After labor, rent, refrigeration, transport, utilities, maintenance, shrink, spoilage, insurance, and everything else. That is the first thing people tend to miss about grocery. It looks like an abundance. Financially, it often behaves like a knife edge. And those costs do not wait politely in the background. Labor is constant. Refrigeration runs all day. Delivery windows are narrow. Fresh departments create work that cannot be deferred. You cannot tell the producer to come back on Monday. You cannot skip sanitation in meat and seafood because margins are thin. FMI reported that training costs for food retailers typically average more than $600 per employee. Healthcare costs were expected to rise another 4.2% in 2024, with more than 12% of increase over 2 years. Even when out-of-stocks and transport issues improve, the cost base keeps pressing upward. The product may be ordinary. The operating burden is not. Spoilage makes the whole equation harsher. Source Logistics, citing USDA estimates, notes that 30 to 40% of the U.S. food supply is lost or wasted at the retail and consumer level. Not all of that is a grocery store logistics failure, of course, but the number shows the scale of fragility in food. Grocery is not moving screws or t-shirts. It is moving goods that rot, bruise, leak, wilt, melt, thaw, and expire. The FDA's general guidance is that perishable food should not remain in the danger zone for more than 2 cumulative hours. That is not much time. 2 delayed handoffs, 1 bad dock queue, 1 trailer problem, and an entire load can shift from sellable inventory to loss. The other quiet drain is the mismatch between the computer's reality and the shelf's reality. Inventory systems know what was received. They know what was scanned at checkout. They do not perfectly know what was damaged, stolen, misplaced, miscounted, or put in the wrong cooler. Grocery depends on count accuracy because the reorder loop is so fast. If the system thinks there are 12 units in back stock and there are actually 0, the problem does not stay in the back room. It turns into a stockout at customer level. And because the store may only make 1.6% net margin, it does not take many of those small failures to erase the profit from a whole category. This is why the structural weak point in grocery is not one dramatic thing like a giant warehouse fire. It is timing. More precisely, the loss of synchronized replenishment. Grocery stores run lean because they have to. They cannot keep endless backup inventory in the store, and much of the product would expire if they tried. So the system assumes that the next truck, the next labor shift, and the next update to inventory will happen on time. If that rhythm breaks, the trouble cascades. Empty shelves trigger substitutions. Substitutions change demand patterns. Customers shift stores. Panic buying amplifies the shortage. Upstream suppliers get distorted signals. Meanwhile, Perishables already in the system keep aging. That cascading logic is easiest to see when something external hits the network. During the February 2021 Texas freeze, the public picture was simple: long lines and empty shelves. The hidden picture was much worse. HEB, which has more than 400 stores in Texas and Mexico, said the storm caused a severe disruption in the food supply chain. The company said the damage was not just on the shelf. It affected manufacturing, warehousing, store operations, and the daily lives of employees and their families. HEB imposed purchase limits on some items, modified store hours, and halted curbside pickup and home delivery. That is what a logistics breakdown looks like once it reaches the storefront. The turning point in Texas was that the breakdown did not stay local to one function. Power and water outages hit households, but they also hit plants, warehouses, transport, and store labor. Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller warned that retailers were struggling to get dairy shipments even while some farmers were dumping milk because processing plants lacked power. That is the grocery system in one image. Shortage at one end, waste at the other. The problem was not that Texas had no food. The problem was that the chain linking raw product to usable retail inventory had snapped in multiple places at once. Transport made it worse. Supply Chain Dive reported that cross-border shipments through Laredo, Texas, which normally took about 1 day, were taking 2 or 3 days during the storm. Load-to-truck ratios were up 29% week over week for dry vans, and 28% for refrigerated freight. More than 400 Walmart stores were closed earlier in the week, and more than 200 were still closed by Thursday. Even when roads began to improve, that did not mean the system was instantly fixed. One consultant quoted in the coverage used a brutal rule of thumb. Full recovery can take 3 times the length of the shutdown. That is how timing failures echo through grocery. The Texas freeze is useful because it strips away the illusion that a supermarket is mostly shelves. It shows that the store is just the visible end of a chain, whose real job is to keep motion uninterrupted. If manufacturing stalls, warehouses cannot allocate. If warehouses slow, trucks wait. If trucks wait, stores ration. If stores ration, customers change behavior. If customers change behavior, forecasting breaks. And once forecasting breaks, even the next good shipment may be the wrong shipment. Grocery is resilient in many ways, but it is resilient by constant adjustment, not by holding huge stockpiles of slack. The larger force reshaping the industry right now is a fight over value and convenience at the same time. Conventional grocers are not just competing with each other. Grocery Dive reported that supercenters gained an advantage over traditional grocers, while clubs, restaurants, and e-tailers kept adding pressure. The result is that grocers are being pulled in 2 directions at once. They have to look cheap enough for budget-conscious customers and useful enough for convenience-driven customers. That is a hard pairing. FMI found that only 38% of surveyed food retailers expected same-store sales to grow in 2024, and just 13% expected net profits to increase. That pressure is changing what stores invest in. FMI said many grocers want to expand fresh departments, add more food service, give more space to private brands, and increase local products. That sounds like a merchandising trend, but it is also a strategic response to bad economics. Fresh departments and prepared food can make a store feel more differentiated. Private labels can offer better value optics and sometimes better margin control. Local products can create loyalty even when national brands are available everywhere else. Online baskets averaging $106 also changed the system. Bigger digital orders sound attractive, but they require labor for picking, substitutions, staging, and delivery or pickup coordination. Convenience is expensive to produce. This is where the line between a good scenario and a bad scenario gets absurdly thin. In a healthy example, a warehouse receives 1,000 cases ordered by stores and ships 980. That is a 98% case fill rate. Stores can probably patch around the missing 20 with safety stock, substitutions, or late replenishment. In a weaker scenario, the fill rate slips to 95%. That is 50 missing cases instead of 20. The difference is only 3 percentage points. Operationally, it is 30 extra problems. 30 more chances for an empty shelf, an irritated pickup customer, or a lost sale to a competitor. In grocery, failure is often just the sum of small misses arriving together. The same thin line exists in temperature control. A trailer that stays at or below 41 degrees protects shelf life. A trailer that spends part of a route in the FDA danger zone starts burning it away. A refrigerated product that spends less than 2 cumulative hours outside safe range may still be usable. Push that beyond the limit, and the load may be unsafe or unsellable. On paper, the difference can look tiny. In dollars, it is the difference between inventory and waste. That is why grocery managers can seem obsessed with minutes, checks, seals, dock appointments, and route discipline. They are. Time is a cost center disguised as a clock. And then there is margin. Good scenario. A store sells $100 and keeps $1.60 after everything, roughly in line with that 1.6% net margin. Bad scenario. Costs rise slightly, spoilage rises slightly, or sales shift to lower margin promotions, and the profit on that same $100 can evaporate. A business like that cannot survive on charm. It survives on repeat volume, accurate replenishment, and ruthless consistency. Grocery does not need one catastrophic error to get in trouble. It just needs enough tiny frictions to turn a thin positive into a thin negative. Which raises the obvious question. If the economics are so tight, why do major players fight so hard to stay in grocery? The answer is that groceries sell more than groceries. It sells frequently. Few categories put a household in contact with a retailer as often as food. The average household spending about $169 a week on groceries is not just spending money. It is revealing habits. Which brands they trust, which diets they follow, which neighborhoods are growing, which promotions work, which products can be replaced by private labels. Grocery creates traffic, data, and routine. Once a retailer owns the weekly shop, it gets a shot at the pharmacy, the fuel station, the deli, the alcohol sale, the seasonal aisle, the app, the membership, and the next online order. That is why low-margin grocery can still be strategically valuable. It anchors real estate. It supports private brands. It gives leverage with suppliers. It trains customers to open the app or visit the store every week. A supermarket may only keep $1.60 on each 100 in direct profit, but if that trip also reinforces habit, raises basket size, supports a loyalty program, and prevents a competitor from becoming the household default, the business looks different. The store is not just monetizing a carton of eggs. It is defending a position in a household's routine. Seen that way, even assortment starts to make more sense. Carrying 33,248 items is not always efficient at item level, but it can be efficient at customer level. One exact cereal, one pet food size, one brand of baby formula, one local salsa, one frozen dinner flavor. Each of those can be the reason a shopper says, "This is my store." Retailers stay in grocery because grocery is one of the last categories that still trains people to return on a near-weekly basis. That is incredibly valuable in an economy where attention is fragmented and loyalty is usually shallow. A grocery store is not really about shelves full of food. It is about keeping thousands of clocks in sync before the customer ever notices time at all.